Floor stacking. It's been in the Rust building scene for over 10 years, and yet it still hasn't been patched. Now, over time, floor stacking has been phased out by the so-called meta bases, but most of the new school bases highlight peak downs and online raids. But what about offlines? This video will cover the easiest floor stacking technique, how to use floor stacking on any base, and some advanced tips for experienced builders, all to make your Rust bases significantly stronger against offline raids in 2025. Now, firstly, many people get scared off of floor stacking because it seems too difficult, but that was the old method. Check out the new one I found that you can do in just a few seconds and set up your whole base for the rest of the wipe. To do it, simply build in the setup I have here with a low wall, a ramp, and a roof behind you. Now, on the low end of the roof, we'll walk up the incline until we can place in a couple small boxes and make sure they're placed right up against that low wall. And that's it. There's no freehand placements. You can just look off to the side and place in a triangle. Just make sure before you place it, you're holding Alt, which will stop you from changing the player's orientation as you move down the ramp. So just to repeat myself, I'm holding down Alt and placing in foundation 1. I'm then moving down the ramp using the D key. If you're on console, you can also just carefully press the joystick to the side, but you may have to try this a couple times, and then you can place in the second foundation when you hit the bottom. Now, just a quick troubleshoot: if your foundation at the bottom doesn't show up as blue, it's likely because you misplaced the two boxes in the setup. Now, if you do make this mistake, luckily it's super easy. You can just remove the two boxes and try the setup again. Once you place in the two foundations correctly, it's time to build in the main base, which you can build off of either of the foundations. But in the next step, I'll show you how to do this to any base so you can use it with your favorite design. If you're new to floor stacking, you'll quickly find that you can't fill in gaps between the lower and raised foundations. So here's how to do it. Start by picking a couple foundations that you want to isolate from the rest of the base and remove the foundations that are connected to it. These don't need to be symmetrical, but it will help for stability if they are directly across from each other. Now, keeping this in mind, let's pause and let me explain the difference between lower and raised foundations. You can see in this first example, we have the raised foundations on the inside with lower ones surrounding it, but we can also flip it and have lower foundations on the inside instead. Now, only one of these is right, and if you don't already know, you can take a guess in the comments, but in the next step, I'll explain why. To show you in the simplest way possible, I've added some walls and basic honeycomb around both of the layouts. Let's start with the 2x2 foundations being on the lower level with the honeycomb being raised. From a glance, this method looks good until you need to start building in door frames on the second floor. You'll quickly find that it's extremely difficult to place in any doors, if not impossible. So overall, there aren't many pros with using lower foundations as the core unless you're building a one-story base. It's much better to use raised foundations as your inner core. So yes, the floor stacking will be a little more noticeable, but you won't have any problems placing down deployables like doors on the second level. Now, you still may be confused, and that's totally fine. I just needed to show you the ideas so that when we go back to these original two floor stack foundations, you can actually understand what's happening. So again, I'm building out the main core of the base off the upper foundation, and then off the lower one, I'm building in all of my honeycomb surrounding. And more improved floor stack bases will incorporate both upper and lower foundations into the honeycomb, which makes them a little harder to distinguish and also still gives you the same benefits as a full floor stack base. If you do it correctly, you can actually create more bunkers than you would have had before. Check out this one using a simple 2x2 design and only floor stacking on 2 of the corners instead of all 4. Now, although I'm going to show you a few different floor stack bunkers, I do believe the easiest way to learn these for yourself is to hop on a sandbox server and practice a few different designs. Floor stacking is just a game of stability, and once you figure it out, you'll be able to build in bunkers and even new types of peak downs into your old school bases. As an example, here's a simple 2x2 drop down bunker I created after just a few minutes on this server. And you don't have to do it for just squares. This works the same way with triangles as well, and in my opinion, the triangle bunkers are even better as they take up even less space and you can't even splash them out with fire or explosive damage from above. I hope that showing you some of these different bunker designs has inspired you to jump on a server and try it for yourself. I guarantee there's bunkers that haven't been discovered yet just because of how underused floor stacking is. And as I mentioned a second ago, once you build the core, you'll have a ton of new options to use for peak downs. Floor stacking is a super useful tool, and I hope this video taught you something new that you can take into your next sandbox build. If you have any questions, feel free to comment, and I'll see you all in the next video.